Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here and to have some conversations with you all and to share my story with scoliosis. So this is my story, Bent Not Broken, and it's a little bit about how I've overcome my roadblock with scoliosis and spinal fusion surgery. So a little bit about me is that I'm very excited to be serving as the Setting Scoliosis Straight Foundation spokesperson this year to do exactly this, to share my story in hopes of inspiring other individuals with scoliosis to know that they can overcome anything that is in their path. I'm currently Miss Florida 2021 and will be competing at Miss America this year in December. And I'm the author of Leah Goes to Washington and have a social impact initiative entitled Be a Lead Her, Igniting the Spark Within. So I've been a dancer since I was 3 years old, and it has been a huge passion of mine to express myself through dance. And it's something that I've always wanted to do throughout my life. But when I was in 8th grade, I actually was getting ready to go to dance class and I had my leotard on, and my mom came over and she saw my right shoulder blade was sticking out a little bit more than the left one. And she tried pushing it into my back and she was like, I don't know why it's not going in. Something's off with your body. I don't know. So we decided to go to my pediatrician and brought it to her attention. She did a screening and she assumed that I might have a curvature in my spine called scoliosis. And that was the first time I ever heard of what scoliosis was. And from there, I was referred to All Children's, which is a children's hospital in St. Petersburg, Florida, where they have scoliosis specialists and orthopedic specialists that could give me a little bit more information. So I got x-rays done and it was confirmed that I did have scoliosis. At the time of 8th grade going into high school, it was about 20 degrees. So it wasn't extremely significant, but we wanted to keep an eye out for it. Eventually, it progressed a little bit and we decided to be proactive and we wanted to get a brace. So I was told I was be getting a brace that I would sleep in every night. And I did. So it's pink snakeskin, really cute. I still have it. But it was a hard brace that I would have to strap myself into before going into bed every night. And I wore that for about 3 years to try to stop the progression of the curve. Unfortunately, it didn't slow down the curve as much as I would have liked. And I think my growth spurts kept it progressing throughout the years. So by the time I was a junior in high school, I did have a 63-degree curvature in the thoracic part of my spine and also a 42-degree lumbar curvature. And we basically decided that spinal fusion surgery would be necessary for me to move forward. And I definitely wanted to have it done before I went off to college. For me, it was really devastating to hear that I would be having rods and screws fused to my spine. And my first question to my doctors were, will I be able to dance again? Because that has always been a passion of mine. And I loved and admired my doctor, Dr. Neustadt, for being very transparent with me. And he said, this isn't going to stop you from what you can pursue, but it is going to limit what you have done in the past. And it's going to be different after surgery, to be very honest with you. And I appreciated him doing that. But again, it was devastating being a dancer since the age of 3 and having a dream to dance for the rest of my life, dance on the Miss America stage, and ultimately might have those taken away from me. And I had no control over this situation. But I worked really hard after spinal fusion surgery. This is the scar. I have 2 titanium rods and 18 screws fused to my spine. And as much as I thought my dreams were over, I did work really hard and knew that I couldn't give up on my passions just because of this one roadblock. And I knew that if I worked really hard and dedicated myself to my sport, that I could achieve anything I set my mind to. So I persevered, I recovered throughout that summer. And then when the time came and I had the discussion with my doctors, I decided to get back into dance class. And about 15 minutes back into my first ballet class, I became extremely frustrated and was about ready to quit completely because it was very different. And I noticed a lot of my flexibility was gone. It was diminished. And it was very frustrating when I used to be able to kick my leg up to my head and now I could barely bend over. But I worked extremely hard to stay flexible and learn how to dance again with my new back, essentially. So I was proud to to dedicate myself and to actually make the dance team at the University of Florida with the Dazzlers and have that experience, and now to be Miss Florida and to dance on the Miss America stage. It is a full circle moment for me. But now being a spokesperson for Setting Scoliosis Straight Foundation, I am more than excited to share my story to as many individuals as possible, to let them know that they don't have to be ashamed of what they've been through, and that they're not lesser of who they are just because they had surgery or they have scoliosis or they have any roadblock in their path. So my mission now is to encourage others to share their stories and to know that they can overcome anything that's in their way.
Hi there, Leah. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. My name is Alexis Thompson. I have scoliosis as well. I'm also a dancer like you. Listening to your presentation, I think that we have a lot of things in common, which is pretty cool. I was diagnosed with scoliosis in March of 2018. I wore a brace for about 2.5 years, and then I ended up having VBT spine surgery in August of 2020. So I have a quick question for you, if you don't mind. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give yourself when you were first diagnosed with scoliosis?
When I was first diagnosed with scoliosis, I don't think I realized the impact that it would have on my life. And I think I really just thought of scoliosis as something that I could fix. I would get a brace, I would wear it, everything would be perfect. But looking back, I had no idea the impact that this would really have going through spinal fusion surgery. And also as a dancer, the impact it would really have on my life, and having to learn how to dance again with spinal fusion and 2 rods, 18 screws. It's been a long journey, and it definitely has been a roadblock, but something that I've learned to overcome and to not let stop me. So I think also when I was diagnosed with it, I saw scoliosis as something wrong with me. And I saw it being almost like a disability, an issue, something that made me different than my peers. And I looked at that as a bad thing. So for so many years, I didn't tell anyone, even after spinal fusion surgery. Basically, none of my friends knew. I didn't tell anyone at my high school because I was ashamed of it. And so now, being here as a spokesperson for Setting Scoliosis Straight Foundation, I've learned that it's so much easier to share your story and to be vulnerable with people, because that's how you connect and really can inspire others to know that if they're going through the same thing, that they can overcome it too. I did it and you can too. So that's what I would tell my younger self.
I love that. Great advice. Thank you so much. And then my second question for you is, what has been the biggest challenge that you have faced in regards to your scoliosis, and how did you overcome it?
The biggest obstacle I faced with scoliosis is simply being a dancer. So, like dance requires a lot of flexibility and being able to move different parts of your body at the same time, which now having 2 rods and 18 screws isn't always possible with my back. So I think for me, as I mentioned, going to my first ballet class, I was so excited to be able to dance again. And really soon into the class was extremely frustrated, because I used to be able to kick my legs up to my head, bend my back over, and do all these sorts of tricks. And all of a sudden they were taken away from me, and I had no control over that situation. And my flexibility was about gone. But I think overall, it's taught me that if I work hard and I dedicate myself to my sport and learning how to dance again with my new back, no, I won't always have the flexibility I had before, but it's just a blessing to still be able to perform and to have that ability. And it's made me a stronger person. So dance in general has not been easy with scoliosis than having spinal fusion, but it's made me a stronger person overall.
I love that. And I totally get it because I was a dancer before my surgery as well. And I recently got back to dance too. So I'm super excited for you and wishing you all the best at Miss America.
Thank you so much, and so happy to hear you're getting back into dance. Love that.
Thank you.
Hi, Leah. My name is Alyssa Holtrust. I was also diagnosed with scoliosis back in 2015, and I had a spinal fusion in 2019. So it's great to be here to hear your story. You're extremely inspiring, so thank you. When you were in college at the University of Florida, you were a member of the Florida Dazzlers. Can you tell us how your scoliosis and spinal fusion impacted your dancing at that time?
Definitely. Well, so excited to hear your story, and just having that similar connection is great. So excited to be here. But being a dazzler and being on a university dance team, it's very different than dancing in the studio, but it requires actually a lot of strength. So for us, being the University of Florida, we are gator chomping thousands of times a day, which actually uses a lot of your back muscles, a lot of your shoulders. And for me, that was really difficult having spinal fusion. It's very tight in my back. So I had to intentionally make sure that I was stretching my back, especially, probably more so than my teammates, and taking time to really make sure that I was being healthy with what I was doing, because you were practicing. We were basically told we're college athletes, so we had very demanding schedules. 6 a.m. workouts to practice every day, to games and hours of events and appearances. So I had to intentionally make sure that I was being healthy, especially with my back. And then also, if there was something that I just couldn't do or I didn't feel comfortable with, it was having those conversations with my coach and my teammates. And they were great. They understood what I've been through and were so supportive during my journey.
That's awesome. The physical demand was so high. It's great that you were able to lean on your resources and your peers for help when you needed it, but focus on your strengths. So amazing. So if you were to give advice for other teens with scoliosis wanting to pursue their dreams within sports and performing arts, what would you share with them?
Go for it. Don't let your scoliosis be the roadblock that stops you from finishing the race. So I like to say scoliosis was a roadblock for me, and it continues to be after having spinal fusion, but you have to find ways around it. So the path might not be linear for you, and there's these roadblocks that come up, but don't look at your scoliosis or having spinal fusion or whatever you've been through be the reason that you give up. If anything, draw on that as a strength. So while it was hard to dance again physically, I think I became mentally so much stronger and more mature after my surgery and what I've been through, because it made me realize that dance, it's not just about technique. It's about the blessing and the ability to still perform and entertain and to do what I love. So at the end of the day, use your scoliosis not as discouragement, but as motivation to keep going.
I think that's excellent. Thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely.
Hey, Leah. Our stories are actually super similar. I was a dancer as well. My name is Courtney Roan, and I was diagnosed in middle school, and I had my surgery back in 2015 when I was a junior in high school. So I'm so happy to hear your story and that we actually have something in common as well. My first question for you is, before you had surgery, did you have any hesitation, and how it would affect your future?
Absolutely, I did. So I definitely had serious conversations with my doctors about how this would affect me. And then also with my family, looking realistically, is this going to be affordable for us? Is it going to be the best idea in the long term? Is it going to hinder me in any way? And then also just knowing that I had goals of being on the dance team and continuing to dance, going to Miss America, and really thinking that this might take those dreams away. But I had to look at the pros and cons and say, you know what, this is best for me. Personally, it's the best decision for the long term. And I definitely wanted to have it before I went to college, and to be able to have the time to recover, have my family and support system around me. So I think it's important to have those realistic and honest conversations. And as I mentioned, that's something I loved about my doctor, is that he wasn't sugarcoating anything. He was very honest and transparent, which is incredibly important.
That's awesome. Totally agree. My second question for you is, what are your goals to help spread scoliosis awareness?
Yes, well, that's why I'm excited to be here with Setting Scoliosis Straight Foundation as a spokesperson, and to champion what they do. And just by sharing my story, connecting with you all, It builds a lot of admiration for people that have gone through similar things and that can relate, to know that it's not easy. And for me also, as I mentioned before, is that I used to think of my scoliosis and having spinal fusion as something that I should be ashamed of and something that made me different than my peers. And yes, it did make me different, but that's a great thing. It's something that I can connect with you all with. It's something I can share my story and inspire others to not let their roadblocks stop them from pursuing their dreams. So my goal is to share my message, to continue championing setting Scoliosis Straight foundation, and to inspire others to never give up if they're going through similar situations.
Thank you so much, Leah. Really loved hearing your story and hearing your advice. I hope many people get to hear it as well. And honestly, take your stuff to heart, because you're really giving some powerful stuff.
Oh, well, thank you all so much. It was an honor for me to connect with you all and to hear your stories.